I'm easy.
All right.
I'll move you away from the topic.
Confident man.
I will move you away from the topic.
Gotcha.
I know what you're doing.
Deflect.
I know what you're doing. I do what you're doing every week.
I can't play the player.
It's been 85 episodes of doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Alrighty. Hello world, welcome back to the Unchristian Network. You are on Intimate Moments with. This is our show where we bring you some of the most impactful, some of the most loved people in your world who are making an impact, and we bring them here and we talk to them and find out who are they really behind the work, behind all that they do, and why do they do what they do. And today is no different. I've got an amazing guest. Before I proceed, I want to let you know that this episode of Intimate Moments with is sponsored by Godana Attorneys Incorporated in Pretoria. If you have any legal needs, from drafting contracts to family law, to labor issues and disputes, whatever it is that you might need an attorney for, a lawyer for, contact them. The details are on the screen, and you'll see more information on the screen about them as we move forward. I hope your 2024 has started out well. I'm good. January is my birthday month, so I've been trying to spoil myself and trying to just Lungelo owes me a gift. Something, but it's been amazing start to there. I hope the same goes for you. Go for everything that is in your heart to do. Do not undersell and do not sell yourself short. That's what I mean. Today I have someone that I hold in very high regard. He doesn't know.
Jeez.
This. Petit Ghost Yama Ghost.
Wow. Actually, that's my producer's nickname.
Of course. Yeah. He calls himself that. He is the host, ladies and gentlemen, of Engineer Your Life podcast. You know it. You love it. He is an engineer by profession, a consulting engineer by profession, and just a generally great dude. Ladies and gentlemen, Lungelo Mdletshe is in the house. That was known as Lungelo KM. He will tell us where does KM come from. Okay, but welcome, sir. How you doing, man?
First of all, now people can Google my surname, which is a thing I've deliberately kept off the internet. Well, I guess. No, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you. Interesting enough about the surname thing is that I've kept it for ease of pronunciation. Everywhere I go, people struggle with pronunciation.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So with me being on YouTube, being on social media, the digital media space, whether you like it or not, it's international.
Of course.
So I had to remain authentic without changing who I am. Hence KM, which is my second name and my surname.
Yeah, interesting. Before we talk many things, there's so much that I want to get into with you. People don't know. I don't think you actually know either. When I was starting this podcast, 2021 was it? Yeah, October. I made the announcement on social media that I'm starting. Put up a poster. Put up this. I'm starting. You already started. You already sort of established in the game, in the podcasting game as well. You started before me. I know that because I was already following you.
Okay.
You were the first person in the industry who reached out to me.
Is it?
For encouragement.
Oh, awesome, man.
Crazy. I don't know if you remember that. You reached out on Twitter.
I do remember
Twitter,
that.
X now.
I think you said, I actually remember, yes.
Yeah.
You posted that would people be interested in a podcast of this nature?
Yeah.
And I think I said just start.
Yeah, you told me to just start.
You'll figure it out. Yeah.
You told me, listen, you told me what to expect. And you availed yourself. You said, listen, anything you need. Yeah. That blew me away, man.
Cool, man.
And I really want to publicly thank you.
Oh, awesome. Wow.
Thank you for that. A secret also that I've kept. You know, we shoot in the garden. In my garden outside. It's only this show here. I got that from you.
When I still shot in the garden back in Durban.
When you were shooting in Durban.
Funny, the garden was the Oprah Winfrey vision. because that's my home. Yeah, that's my home garden in my home in Durban.
Lovely.
So once again, that was I remember I spoke to a good brother of mine, Lungelo Mdletshe, and I seeked to him to ask him, because he was my very few guests, and I asked him about the location that I'm using, because I was still trying to figure out what I'm doing, and he said, "Keep this garden. Why do you like it?" And I said, it's the Oprah Winfrey inspiration. And he like, "Do you want to be like Oprah one day?" And I'm like, "What does it take to be like Oprah?" And he said, "Over 4,000 episodes." I'm like, "Challenge accepted."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I see where you benchmarking.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Your podcast was a breath of fresh air when I encountered it.
Really?
In terms of the landscape in South Africa.
Yeah.
We will get into what's happening in the podcasting scene in South Africa, but I really loved the authenticity of the conversations and the people that you're bringing. And I do that on this podcast as well, in terms of, this is not a celebrity podcast. I've realized, man, someone can be famous but
no substance,
have nothing to say.
Nothing. In fact, I'd say 70% of there are celebrity guests that have bored the hell out of me after the podcast. And I tell the producer, "Yo, I hope you got something out of that. Like, I hope you are happy." Man. And sometimes my producer would be happy because I have the skill. I know how to conduct a conversation.
Of course,
I carried myself.
But when you feel it,
I know that wasn't exceptional, and it could have been exceptional, but celebrities will hide a lot.
Yeah. And following that, starting and all of that, you continue to even send me inspirational content about podcasting and stuff, the business side of things behind this. Man, thank you.
Cool,
Thank
man.
you so much, man.
That's awesome.
I really appreciate it. But those who don't know you, Lungelo Mdletshe, born and bred in Durban.
Umlazi. Yes.
Which section?
N.
By N, yeah.
Please don't go attack my grandmother now. In case you don't like me. She's all I have.
How far are you from Ayatid?
Eyadini kuka V. V is about, Umlazi is big. It's about 10 minutes. It's about 10 minutes.
Where is it in the hierarchy of big townships?
It's the biggest in the country that's not a conglomeration of townships, because Soweto is a yes. So it's actually the biggest. It's got more than 1 million residents.
Sure. I know Alexander is also up there.
Yeah.
I get that. But when you think back to your childhood, growing up, you are an only child to your late mom.
Yes.
We all have memories that you think back and say, man, that was formative.
Yeah.
Had that not happened, I don't know, I don't think I would be where I am. When you think back, what memories pop up that were like formative memories in your childhood?
My mother was a teacher, a very good teacher, but she taught in the rural areas. And next to Bamshela. If you know Bamshela, you know it's the one place in the country that is condensed with the most Toyota Cressidas. Do you remember the car Cressida?
Yeah,
they use them as cabs there.
I see.
So Uktata people from the I'll stick to English, I'll try.
Oh, definitely.
Zulu people are a problem. To take people from the small town there and take them into the deep rural side. That's what they use. I digress. Going back to my mom, her teaching there, life wasn't easy as such for us.
You lived with her?
And I lived with her. So there was a moment where we lived in Tongat, a place called Tongat, which is about an hour away from the school where she was teaching.
And Ipamshela is under Durban.
And Ipamshela is under Tongat side.
Okay.
So outer Durban, much outer Durban. And I'd have to travel from, either we staying at Tongat where she was renting a flat, or we'd stay a few days at Bamshela because of convenience, to school, a crash in town at Tongat, which was an hour away.
Sure.
And then I moved back to Durban to stay with my grandparents while she tried to look for work this side and get transferred. So that back and forth of inconsistencies in terms of living arrangement wasn't easy at all. That back and forth in terms of changing schools, but my mother remaining an anchor that wants to give me a better life. Back then that taking your child to a multiracial school was seen as the pinnacle, right? It's what taking your child to a private school is right now. Sure. And she did that alone because my dad and her didn't have the greatest relationship. They were on and off. Sometimes and my dad is not the most educated person. Right. So her being that example of an educated graduate with an honors degree was Interesting. But then again, there's this lack of stability because she's alone. She's having to manage this thing alone. She's raising a boy child alone. And it comes to a point where we finally find some sort of stability when she moves back to Durban afundise Umlazi and teach in Umlazi. So now everything is close. We live in Umlazi. She's teaching in Umlazi. I'm going to school in Durban CBD, a school called George Campbell School of Technology. So now things are flowing. But then things flow only for me to go to university for her to die in my second year. You know?
Now that things were looking...
Yeah.
You're on the journey of success.
Yeah.
All this thing, like everything you've been through as a duo, as a team. This is how I'm picturing your relationship. Just
Absolutely.
the two of you.
Just the two of us.
Against the world. Everything's making sense.
I mean, she didn't pay for my high school or my university because of how she raised me to I believe, to be a respectable young man who thinks. I was on bursary in high school. I was on bursary in university because of the academia that I was getting. I think grade 10 first term is the only time in my life I was never first in grade.
My goodness. Wow.
That is insane. And I remember I had a meltdown. I was like
you
third in grade. I was third in grade. I was like, what is going on? Like, who cheated? Who cheated? Who are these new people who think they're smarter than me? But I realized that tenacity and that wanting to be great came from a place of always being in the presence of more, but not fitting in the more because my mother didn't afford to give me the more.
What a contradiction internally.
So I'm in the presence of people who are doing well. I'm always in a good school. When you're in a good school, naturally, people are brought in by a mom and a dad. They go to practice with them for sports or extramural activities.
Or a hired driver.
Or a hired driver. Or or an au pair. Or they are brought in with a fancy car, a fancy SUV.
Man.
My mother till 2007 she was driving a Corsa Light. I don't know if people remember a Corsa Light. That small little thing, right? So I didn't have access to all this. Primary school, I didn't go to school. I wasn't driven to school. My mother couldn't take me to school. She had her own work to go to. So the responsibility really rested on her and me having to grow up very, very quickly. So definitely that element of pain. That's why I don't despise pain much. And I have a good relationship with pain. Is that element of pain that comes from unfavorable situations. Truly, if you have the mental capacity to dig deep, it will be a driving force that sets you far ahead of people who are cushioned.
Tell me, why is it that other people go the other way? You went the way of academic excellence, focus, discipline. Other people coming from your circumstances will say, "Benga na ubaba mina, besluphe no mama." This is why I dropped out of school. This is why. What do you think causes that difference?
I'm an outlier in that sense. I won't lie and say it's the norm. It's being an outlier because you shouldn't have to go through horrendous circumstances for you to unleash your greatness. In fact, statistically, scientifically, greatness is unleashed by placing an environment that nurtures. We all want nurturers. If we didn't want nurturers, none of us would get into romantic relationships.
Of course.
We all want to be nurtured. We wouldn't have Jolof being the most spoken thing about on the internet every single day. Fundamentally, we need to be nurtured. So, and nurturing comes in the form of money, good careers, good family life, a solid home, a good roof, eating well, just being supported and being comforted. And I think I cannot negate the fact that in the midst of difficulty, my mother nurtured me. So as much as I'm an outlier, the nurturing element was not absent.
Amazing.
Right? So there are very few people who would go through a tough situation, but if maybe their parents are completely absent, can still make it. Because you're not being nurtured there. When you're not being affirmed that I love you, or there are actions that your parent shows you that they love you, coming back from work and bringing you a lollipop, they may not afford to buy you fancy Jordan sneakers, but they bought you a lollipop today. They bought you a Happy Meal from that restaurant. They bought you, I don't know, they know that you like candy floss, and once in a while they buy it every 3 months. So it's that nurturing element can exist outside of money.
We don't need privilege and cushion, like, to be wealthy.
Yeah.
To be there.
To be there.
For our loved ones.
To be there, to be present, to be a good person.
Yeah.
You don't need privilege.
Yeah. Cool. Did you feel the absence of your father? And what feelings throughout childhood up to adulthood do you harbor towards him and just the situation of him not being there?
He was inconsistent. He wasn't absent.
Sure.
And that sometimes can be more painful than absentia. Because absentia, you make peace with it very young, that this person does not exist, so you do not involve them in the makeup of your day-to-day.
I get you.
In the makeup of your psyche and your emotions and things that you're either going to look up to or you're going to reserve a place for in your heart.
Yeah.
So mine would come and go right until I was an adult, to the extent that we are repairing our relationship only ever since, I'd say, October last year. Not last year, the year before.
Oh, the year before.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how recent our attempts to repair our relationship is. And it's going to take time. I mean, you're repairing a relationship with a 29-year-old at the age of 50-something. I think he's 55, 56. So it's going to take time. But yes, absolutely, it is critical as a father to be there in the formative years of your children. Teach them masculinity, something that is apparently not so popular nowadays. Masculinity, not toxic masculinity. Teach them masculinity. Teach your child, Uguti, you provide as a man. There must be a makeup in you as a man naturally that you provide. And when we say provision, it doesn't necessarily mean buying your girlfriend, your wife, or even your husband, if it's a husband, a new Range Rover just because they did something. No.
Of course.
It means making sure that if it's within your means, that you can only afford to Uber them from work back and forth. That's your gesture of saying, my loved one, my child, this is how much I afford for you. But because I can Uber you, it means you are safe. It means I take your protection seriously. I'll take it down even further on the hierarchy of affordability. If it's just a taxi, walk them to the taxi stop.
Wow, man.
You know, even if it's just a taxi.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's 6 a.m. in the morning, you're going to school, my son. I don't have a car to take you to school, but I want you to go to school in Sanson. I stay in Soweto. I want you to go to school in a suburb. I can at least pay for the school fees, but I can't pay for the transport. So I've tried to pay 1,000 rand a month for you to get school fees. I'm going to walk you to the taxi. You can call me when you're on your way back, because I feel like there's a 1 kilometer walk to the taxi stop that's not safe. Call me on your way back, message me on your way back and say, Dad, I'm on my way back. I'll make sure you drop at the stop. I'm there when you drop off. Things like that. So there's varying degrees of being able to be supportive. And I think now that I'm trying to repair my relationship with my dad, by the way, that repair comes from my rootedness in faith. Yeah.
Wow.
uNkulunkulu akekho, uNkulunkulu umoya ongcwele who comes into your life and speaks to the hard side of your heart
and tames you
and speaks to the Lungelo who affords anything for himself. I literally afford whatever I want to afford for my life. I'm a single man who doesn't have much responsibility beyond myself. So what I want, I do, right? I live a very content life. I live a very blessed life. I'm relatively accomplished for my age, especially in the South African climate as a young black man. So for uNkulunkulu to come and tame that level of confidence that can easily tip over to arrogance, it's definitely what has caused our relationship to be where it is today, which is in a much better space than it's ever been.
You are killing some of our excuses as parents. Especially someone like me who's parent to kids in a divorced family. With my ex. We can make a lot of excuses of why we can't do this and this. And so you mentioned resources. There's a scripture in the Bible that says what you do with little. No, I'm quoting the lesson now. It says, if you can be trusted with little, you can be trusted with much.
Absolutely.
Which the actual principle there is what we do with little and what we do in times of little is a direct picture of what we're going to do in times of much. So,
Yeah.
so a parent can say, Mina, I don't have much.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm not there for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much.
Mm-hmm.
But that principle tells us that even if you did have much, your attitude would not be very different. Your conduct would not be very different, because it's about a value system than it is about having. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, what was the ingredient that you saw in your dad as he's coming closer to repair this relationship? Something that you saw in his heart or in him that said, I will open up my heart. You've mentioned Moingwell, of course, but generally,
which I believe this is also on his end. There was my late uncle, my grandmother Lelo KM, he had done an unveiling sort of msebenzi for him post his passing. Because he knows I don't know who had told him, and because we were not talking, he just came there. Uninvited, right. Nothing. Okay. He came there, went to speak to my grandmother. Luckily, for whatever reason, him and my grandmother have always had a decent relationship, my maternal grandmother.
Sure.
And then he came and asked my grandmother where I am and if he could speak to me. Because it's I'm up and down and up and down.
How old were you at this time?
2022.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah.
And then that was his first attempt.
I see. So it was the approach, the effort.
Yeah.
I love that.
The effort. He also talked to me. We spoke.
Sure.
I won't lie. I'm a person who doesn't mince my words. I gave him my because we spoke for about 30 minutes and I gave it to him.
Wow.
And I gave it to him and he didn't take offense.
He took it.
He took it and apologized, and we've been trying ever since. And
kudos.
Even now, how he's trying is that, geez, I have such an insane life. Like I'm busy in terms of my work as an engineer. It's the podcast. It's businesses that I do.
Of course.
It's the property space that I'm in, and various things that I'm in. So I for the average person, you go through somebody to get to me, right? And he's aware that we don't have a strong enough relationship where getting to me for him must be instant, and he's expectant of I'll drop what I'm doing to contact you.
Sure.
But when I say that even now he's patient enough to send a WhatsApp and follow it up with another one tomorrow if I don't reply, and don't take offense if I reply on the third day.
Wow.
Because he understands that a lot of my life happened without him.
Yeah.
And he can't come and impose himself. And the person that he's finding now is a credible man who's worked, who's built a brand, who's built a private life.
Sure.
And in that private life, there's a hierarchy of important people. And you can't just skip the queue without working at it.
Man. Hey, man.
You know? And honestly, like, even if we don't, like, I'd say 2 weeks goes up with us not speaking.
Sure.
But he'll send a voice note.
Man.
And if he'll watch an episode and comment on TikTok.
Oh, nice.
He said, actually, we spoke 2 days ago. I'm like, you have TikTok? Is that your account that commented? And it's like, yeah, I have TikTok and Instagram because I watch your podcast on it.
Listen.
I don't know how it works, but I asked my nephew that how do I follow your page and see the clips?
Yes.
He's like, I watch all. He's like, I know all your podcasts on. I see them on TikTok.
That's amazing. Yeah. It gives you confidence of his seriousness, I guess.
Yeah.
Which then makes you be invested now in the process. But that's something worthy of saying congratulations on that mending process and journey that you've jumped on.
Definitely.
In South Africa, certainly it's not the story of many.
No, it isn't. Once again, I'll say thank you to my journey in faith, because had I not had faith, I had what is considered valid reasons to not speak to him until he dies.
Of course, yeah.
You know, I have valid reasons. And I do believe that people do have valid reasons to not speak to toxic parents.
Sure.
And I don't blame them for not speaking to toxic parents until they die. But an opportunity to dig so deep to attempt to repair is a blessing on its own.
I love that. I love it. You did mention that some of the things that happened in your life helped you to develop a thick skin, backbone, I'm avoiding the word to be hard, because you're not hard. You are strong, but you're not hard. that is also a trait that so many of us are struggling with, especially at these times. You found me listening to a particular podcast. That podcast, they were talking about the increasing rates of depression and stress in our world. And interestingly, they're saying that after COVID, our stress levels have gone up.
They've plummeted. Definitely.
It's but I love the trait of yours to be able to be resilient in life. What else would you attribute that to? It's your faith in God. It's being raised in an environment that trained you to be strong. Is there anything else that when your back is against the wall, you draw strength from?
This is level of privilege also.
Okay.
I have a therapist.
Of course.
And in a 12-month period, I probably see her 10 months.
That's good.
So I try at least every single month.
That's good.
It's by mistake that I miss a monthly session. I don't think I have a level of clinical depression where I need to see her more than that, because I know that people who see their therapist twice a week, 3 times a week, which I hope you really, if you're struggling with that, I hope you already overcome it. But definitely, ever since I started working, I've been seeing a therapist because for the longest time, I thought I was dealing with my mother's passing, but it was eating me away.
I see.
So I started seeing a therapist 3 years after my mother passed, because then I started working so I could fund it. And that I can't speak to people enough. That finding a therapist,
it's gold.
Is gold. Finding a therapist that also understands you is gold. My therapist is a white old woman.
Mine is an Indian lady.
Approaching probably close to 60. I never thought that a woman with those such different circumstances to my life would understand me. But it was clear that she's obviously good at her career and what she does. So that was a resilience training on my end. Emotional imbalance training, bring me back to myself whenever I have issues. Once again, faith and a relationship with God.
Of course.
And I need to emphasize a relationship with God, because some of the things we're going to touch on today are going to feel like a contradiction as to why this person speaks about faith so much. Why is this person a born-again believer and is not scared to speak about being a born-again believer? But why does their life seem like it appeals so much in secular spaces? That's because we are called to demonstrate God according to our own purpose, right? I don't have to be in the clergy. I need to listen to the Holy Spirit in my heart. Furthermore, you seek God in your own way, right? Of course, it has to be biblical. Nakhona, remember, Bible is interpreted by each person in their own way. I don't want to go into denominations. I don't want to go into types of charismatic churches that many of us go to. Many might argue into me so that because of the way you became a pastor, you're not a real pastor. I'm sure you've been accused.
They can easily.
So on that premise, faith and relationship with God has saved me from the turbulences of what church is, and has kept me in a growth trajectory in my personal life, whether there is church or not, whether I'm in this church, whether that pastor likes me in that church, whether the pastor's wife has been cheated on by the pastor, or my pastor is going through a divorce, whether they feel I'm not good enough to serve in this ministry in the church, whether I don't fit the mold because I'm not a married man with kids. And that is apparently ubabo right. There's so many things where I don't fit the mold of what church culture is, because that's not God, it's church culture. And God has kept me, man.
Wow. That personal relationship that supersedes your relationship with church.
Supersedes it by far.
We all have reasons to leave church, man. We all have reasons to leave church. But so it's anchoring when you have a real connection with God. Getting into engineering. Was that always your thing?
Yes.
You did go to a technical school.
I
by
went
the sounds
to a school
of
of technology in high school. Because I did make the decision in grade 7 that I want to be an engineer. I didn't know what an engineer does.
Yeah. What kind of engineer are you?
Electrical.
Oh, all right.
Excuse me. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm professionally registered. So,
Sure.
If I don't know if you've noticed, but that's also another reason why I prefer Lungelo KM, because legally, when you put Lungelo Mdletshe, there's supposed to be a bracket PRN after my name every time.
I see.
So it's like CASA, doctor.
Sure,
so there has to be that. So if I'm going by my full name, I need to put that.
That as
and then
well.
all the time I must tell people, and explain.
And then explain in abbreviations.
Yes, explain abbreviations. And then people change how they respect you based on the abbreviation. Now it's like fake larger respect. And just take me as a human.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How has that been? How's that career been for you? Can you confidently say you didn't make a mistake?
Absolutely.
By going into
I love it so much. Which shocks people who only know me from the online things, because that side is very mathematical, scientific,
very logic analysis,
analysis, report writing. I guess I got the A's for the maths and the science.
Of course.
So we are within, and we're doing well. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember who we were speaking about it. That so they are so there's something called PRN, professionally registered engineer.
Okay.
Which means you got an honors degree and above from university, and then there's something called PR Tech Eng, which means you're an engineering technologist, which means you went to a University of Technology, formerly known as a Technicon. That means you have an NQF7 degree, a BTech. So, in totality, PR Eng and PR Tech Eng, there's a slight variation of what the other one can sign off. So, PR Eng can sign off higher things than PR Tech Eng. And in totality in this country, there's 14,000, just over 14,000 people who are either PR Eng or PR Tech Eng combined, registered. Only 14,000 in this country, registered by the Engineering Council of South Africa. In that 14,000, remember, PR Eng and PR Tech Eng, 1,200 are non-white. Obviously, because of historical challenges and access into the space. Only 1,200 are non-white. Remember, this is PR Eng and PR Tech Eng. Combined. So I don't know in this 1,200, one, how many are PR Eng only, and two, how many are black. Because the non-white includes Indians and colors. So it's a very niche space that Unkulunkulu has blessed me to be able to be at and be professionally registered at 29. I mean, I've got colleagues in my professional space who have to hire me to sign off something and they're 43 because it's a sign-off thing. If I was civil, the bridge can't be opened without me signing it off, kind of thing. For electrical, a certain hospital can't be opened for it to run and the plug opened. You know what I mean? Because the designer needs to sign it off. So it's a beautiful space to be in. It gets you definitely a lot of rewards in terms of monetary and the respect that you're afforded by people in society. But naturally, it also attracts people who want to be close to you for the wrong reasons.
Of course. Give me a 30-second snapshot of what you do in your day at work. Mawuthi electric engineer.
Yes.
Ulo muntu ofaka amagezi endlini zethu noma what is
I struggle to do my own house wiring because engineering is so analytical. So you as an engineer, you are the brains behind a big project being executed. So I'll make an example with hospitals that I work with here in Gauteng, where a hospital, the brains of a hospital, the electrical brains are something called switchgear. Switchgear is the point that gets the big electricity from outside, from the municipality or ESCOM. There are transformers, there's switchgear that controls, that protects, and that switchgear is a science on its own. And that science is where the engineer comes in, of which switchgear is correct, which technology is correct, to make sure the hospital never trips, to make sure that the different ports in the hospital are fed. You go into a hospital and you think, the main switch drop is just the DB on the wall, the distribution board. That distribution board is fed from back then, from the main switchgear. So that whole reticulation from the transformer, the cabling, the underground cabling, the copper cabling,
you have to design that whole
aluminium
system,
cabling, the racking that all the cables run on in the ceiling or underground, the mini transformers, the generators nowadays that there's backup supply, the alternative energy, the solar. We are rolling out solar energy now in Gauteng. All of that comes from the brains of the engineer, and then the engineer then puts it on paper through junior staff members. Junior staff members brings it back to the engineer. The engineer's like, yes, you've interpreted it correctly. Then the service provider interprets it with the engineer again. Hence, before I came here, I was on site. I've got a service provider who's installing a generator at one of the hospitals in the province. And I'm there now in the monitoring process to make sure that they are implementing it exactly how it was designed. Because if they don't implement it like that, and I wasn't there to monitor it, I will not sign that off because it's going to kill people.
Yes. And then you will be liable.
And I'm liable. I'm actually legally liable.
Yes.
So I can be taken to court, ripped off of this PR engine, go to jail if people die, right? So that's the intensity of, I'd say, the oath we sign with the Engineering Council of South Africa when we get into this career.
The level of decision making is quite heavy.
It's heavy.
It's a big weight to carry.
It's a big weight to carry, but you... Like everything you do, I mean, you can ask a doctor, a surgeon, and they'll tell you, yes, I know it's important what I'm doing, but it's my daily life. Now.
It's all in the day's work.
It's all in the day's work.
Good. Would you ever work for Eskom? Do you feel like you could contribute to public service? Is that an environment you'd ever want to be in? As things stand.
As things stand, no.
Yeah.
But as things stand, without revealing too much, I am contributing to public service.
I get you.
So I'm happy in the capacity that I'm contributing to public service in. As things stand, Eskom is painful. As an engineering professional who's dedicated their life to energy and energy supply for people, because essentially that's what I do. I make sure that people get energy.
Yes.
And to see, and energy is as good as air we breathe nowadays. Yeah. Energy is as good. Like, some people may argue it's Wi-Fi, but there is no Wi-Fi without energy.
You're very right. You're very right. Yeah.
So energy is as fundamental to our existence as humanity as anything you can ever think of. Every technological advance requires energy at its base. Yes. So it's painful to watch what Eskom has become, but Eskom requires a political overhaul. I'm not a politician, so my contribution, I could be the smartest engineer you could ever think of.
You are technical, right?
I'm technical, so my contribution will not be valued as it stands. But certainly there are gross technical and engineering errors taking place, correct? Absolutely. There is 100% sabotage happening at Eskom. Service providers are told that you can be a service provider, go through the process normally, you get to site, you fix something, and you are told that don't fix it fully because we need to call you back next week because we need to make money off you.
And it's sad when you know this. And you can't say it. It's rough. Starting your podcast, being someone who is introverted, I don't know if that's the right term to...
I'm not introverted, I'm private.
You're private. I love it. Being someone like that and then going on not going on a public platform, creating...
I'm mad, right? Who does that?
Why landing king?
Yes.
For yourself, creating a public platform like that, was that a big adjustment? What was your thought process when Engineer Your Life was beginning?
Funny, it began through a friend of mine, great friend of mine. He's a radio personality at 5FM, Harrison Mkhize. He was releasing music for the first time. And he's like, so we've been friends for, I'd say, 15 years. And I was like, friend, I know you have the brains to help me do the marketing because I'm an independent artist for my music. So I did that for him. And in my plans was... photo shoot, there was radio interviews, there was Twitter campaigns, there was Instagram rollouts, TikTok rollouts, and podcasts were still new, and there was podcasts. But now we're both based in Durban, and there is no podcast in Durban. And 2008, I did a course at the SABC. It's called Media Concepts. I still remember what it is. And I finished, it was a 3-month course, and I finished it top of the class. It was a TV and radio presenting course.
Okay.
Because
sorry to jump in there, why did you go for that course? What pulled you to that
burning
course?
Desire to broadcast.
I see.
Back then, the funny thing is that was triggered by, I grew up watching Yo TV. So I saw people my age becoming broadcasters.
Yes.
Right?
And stars.
And becoming stars. So I think that was the idea then as a young person. Like, no, if I know how to present, then I can ask for a job at Yo TV.
Sure.
Fast forward, the agent who was in charge of the school, I love you, you top of the class.
Yeah.
Kimberly Stark. Wow, I can't remember the name.
Wow.
Kimberly Stark. I wonder if she's still alive because she was very old then. She said, because my mom wasn't there, she was going to fetch me. My mom came and she said, can we please go to Joburg with your son next week Thursday for an audition? I want to manage him and be his agent.
Wow.
I'm in grade 8 at George Campbell then. My mom's like, she said that's not happening. She has to finish school. That was the end of that.
So you could have got in earlier.
Definitely the traditional route, but I don't regret it one bit.
Of course.
I mean, I only moved to Joburg last year. Perfect timing for me. Like, I'm so content. My head is fixed on the right shoulders. Geez, I feel bad for kids who have to live through this Joburg crazy life and grow up in it and
find your way in this jungle.
Find your way in this jungle. No, I'm so glad I grew up in Durban, established in Durban, built my own in Durban. Coming back to the Harrison story, starting the podcast, I'm like, okay, I'll interview you.
Yeah.
I'll create a podcast.
Okay.
Something I've been thinking about for a while. Let's just do it.
Okay.
We do it. I interview him. He's meant to be the first episode, but it doesn't happen that way. And then I start asking people, damn, I need to interview more people. So that when I release this thing, it's at least a body of work that seems strong. So I record Tutuga. So another thing, when you're a private person, people think that celebrities only have other celebrity friends. Yeah. So I was privileged enough. I think it also comes from the privilege of being a professional. You're doing well. You're then able to afford to enter certain spaces, certain parties, certain networks. So I had a lot of popular people in my circle. So it was easy for me to make calls and people would say, no, I'll do it. People would never seen me interview anyone, right? So I was able to get Tutuga Mthembu, who's Nonka Onuzalo. I was able to get Sir Beyonce Mkize, who is on Ukhozi FM on the Drive Show. I was able to get Kaya Mthethwa. And then I had Harrison. And then I recorded all of them without telling anyone that I'm releasing a podcast. There I'm finding my feet. Please, if you watch those episodes, forgive me for all those mistakes. And then the Kaya Mthethwa episode is my first episode.
And that was the first one I saw of you. So that's interesting. I thought you was 10 or something.
No,
the first one I saw of you was with, interesting. So that
Kaya
was
Mthethwa as my first episode.
Interesting.
And the response is insane.
Yeah.
For a first-time broadcaster, you're gifted in something.
Yeah.
You've never had a platform to nurture it and practice it. And when you do nurture it, I'd say then I was 65% good.
Good.
I'd easily say now I'm 90%.
Yeah.
I'd say now I'm the best interviewer in the country, but you can despite that if you want. Especially in the types of interviews that I conduct. I don't think anybody does it like me. Maybe some others would say, but numbers are curated.
Numbers are not everything. There are streaming farms. We know these things can be.
So for that, I then established the podcast, and I've probably taken 2 breaks in my entire journey of 22 months. I've taken 2 1-month breaks. Other than that, I've released an episode every week.
And it's that consistency that people don't understand is the key to break through.
But you can be consistent in rubbish.
You can be.
There's another podcast I won't mention. They were celebrating episode 100 and then they closed down.
Aibo.
They were, I think, on 500 subscribers when they closed down after 100 episodes.
Oh.
So for me, that's an example of being consistent in rubbish.
Just
you're not learning.
Did not land at all.
You're not learning.
Yeah.
You're not re-evaluating your mistakes. You're not choosing to grow. You're not putting in the work. You're not sacrificing, because the amount of resources that I've sacrificed for my podcast to be what it is now. Personal resources that I could have easily gone to Dubai with. That I could have easily lived my best life with. But I chose to build and create. And I'm still building, you know?
Last time I checked, you had not taken a cent yet from the podcast. Has that changed?
I've not.
Yeah. You've always put in more. I know this for sure. I know this from doing this.
Yeah.
People look at you with X amount of subscribers to Neymar.
Absolutely. I've not taken a cent to pay for anything that's personal. Revenue that I get from a podcast probably transports a guest, pays for a guest's drinks, because different guests have different requirements. I've flown guests in when I was still in Durban, because I believe strongly in what I'm doing.
Yes.
I remember the first guest I flew in was Jackie Pamote. What a brilliant decision, because she was one of our breakthrough episodes.
Amazing.
I remember that episode did 40K in like 40,000 subscribers, 40,000 views rather, in like 2 weeks for a podcast that had just over 1,000 subscribers. So I've taken so many risks for the podcast, just reinvesting. You see our studio back in Durban. You look at the mistakes we made it sound, the mistakes we had with footage, with cameras, bought cameras one at a time, bought microphones one at a time, research, consistent research. But I knew that, God, what I have, even if my sound and my footage is not the best, my content is free.
Yes.
Being created, my content doesn't cost me a cent. So I made sure that the caliber of what I say, that what comes out of my mouth, of how I conduct that conversation is world class.
Amazing.
The podcast that you are watching now, once again, when I watch that guy, I've got many episodes that are better than his in how I conduct my interviews. I don't feel alarmed at all by people like him. I think he's on like 3 to 4 million subscribers, right?
He's up there.
But remember, region. If I were to take my podcast and plant it in the UK as well, UK and USA, the algorithm is designed to push everything that they do to the entire world, right? So just based on region, once again, me moving my podcast from Durban to Johannesburg, the success in the past 2 months, I've probably gained, in the past 8 weeks, I've gained 4,000 subscribers.
Amazing.
Right? Location, the algorithm, Johannesburg, South Africa being what is considered the content head of this continent. Naturally, the algorithm responds to that and says, oh, this thing is coming from Joburg. It means it must be fed to the rest of Africa.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And people don't understand that.
People don't understand
Joburg
that.
is not just feeding South Africa.
No.
It's the entire continent. I'm literally, as you and I are talking, I've got people everywhere.
I get whacked on my podcast when I speak a lot of Zulu. That's why I made the disclaimer at the beginning of the episode that I'll try my best to speak English. But I've got cognitive dissonance about that. Zulu is the highest spoken language in South Africa, more than English even. So 28% of South Africans speak Zulu. Every other language shares the other 70%. Right? So if you're going to tell me not to speak, one, my home language,
your own language,
two, the most spoken language in this country, I've got issues with you saying that.
But also,
why don't you learn?
Also, why are we forced to? We don't ask Australian guys and UK people to speak our language. We take it. We take it.
We don't ask them to change their accent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people I can't listen to because their accent is too thick.
Man,
do you know what I mean? There are people I'm like, I'm not going to listen. I'm sorry, your content may be good, but I may be missing out because your accent is distracting. Just tune out. It's okay. Tune out. Don't tell a person to change their product for you.
Right.
You're one viewer out of an episode that will get 50,000 views. Why must I change what I do for you? It's either you learn what they were saying, rewind, put it on Google Translate, because the slip up of the Zulu words happens 1% of the time in the episode. You know, for you to make it an issue and go write a rude comment. You know.
What is your why? We engineer your life podcast. What's your why?
Our tagline is called the home of phenomenal interviews. An interview, my producer, this will bring context to telling me why, to explaining what why is my why. My producer and I were speaking about the type of guests that we are getting. So we're always pulling heads back and forth, because he has a vision. Of course, he must align it with my vision as the founder. And we're always pulling each other. I'm like, why don't you interview this person? Why don't you interview? I'm like, nope, it doesn't align with the vision. Nope, it doesn't align with the vision. And my vision comes from that child who did a presenting course, who understands that that child needed other people who will demonstrate how you can be what you want to be.
My goodness.
Furthermore, my producer also said to me when he started, because he's big on TikTok, he said, but aren't you scared doing long form that people are going to get tired quickly? I was like, no. Oprah Winfrey wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
Nolene Maulana Sangha wouldn't exist. Trevor Noah wouldn't exist.
Yes.
I could go on and on and on for
long
days,
list.
right? And he said, but those people, I'm like, the only thing that keeps evolving is the medium.
Yes.
It used to be a TV show.
Yes.
Now it's YouTube, but it's still a TV show, the way we conduct it, right?
Yeah.
It's just that people can watch it on their phone, not just on
Absolutely.
TV. Can watch it on their phone, on their tablet, on their PC. But it's still exactly the same concept, which is talk show style conversation.
Yes.
And that's what I do.
Sure.
I host a talk show. You can call it what you want, a podcast. You can give it whatever name you
but
like.
it is really a talk show.
It's a talk show.
It's a talk show.
In its talk show format, the strict format for me is that I need to learn the other side of the person who's behind the mic.
Sure.
The side that isn't ordinarily known.
That's right.
Maybe they are barraged by controversy. Cindy Makatini sent me an Instagram on Sunday and said thank you. Funny, we recorded that episode with Cindy 7 weeks ago.
Oh, ngempela.
Before the drama.
And there's a lot that happened.
And a lot happened. My producer tells her Monday morning last week before we release it that we're releasing the episode tomorrow. She says, yo, do we really have to? I'm tired of the internet speaking about me. It's
shame.
immensely draining.
Yeah.
My producer calls me and says, because he wasn't there when we were recording it.
Right.
He's like, what did you and Cindy speak about? Because she says she's forgotten because she's done so many interviews. And I'm like, don't worry, it's clean. It's actually going to fix her brand.
Yes.
Just remind her that this is what we spoke about.
Yes.
I gave him the points.
Sure.
She was like, okay, cool. Sunday, she sends me a message on Instagram. She's like, thank you for cleaning up my brand, because that's really who I am, and not everything that people have been saying about me.
That's amazing.
She's like, I'm reading the comments and I've never seen so much positivity said about me ever in my life.
It's amazing stuff, man.
Because she said, yes, I've made mistakes that have been done in the public space, but I've worked so hard to clean that image. As I've grown up, obviously there are certain decisions you stop making and people just refuse to accept the change.
Yes.
They just refuse.
Crazy,
and
man.
there's fake stories created about me. I mean, there is price lists that go around her that don't exist. There's a fake Twitter page that has over 300,000 followers. It's not her.
Wait a minute.
She doesn't have Twitter.
Well, no.
Does not have Twitter at all.
Lungelo.
Promise you.
She
doesn't have
that
Twitter.
account is not her.
The only thing she has is Instagram and TikTok. Now, on TikTok, she's got an account that's very recent. Because her team has been telling her, join TikTok. People are talking about you there. You know? So, the constant barraging of her brand and what our platform is able to do for people it's changing lives. And I know I'm in my purpose, because
important.
A month doesn't go past without a guest crying on my show.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you know you're in your purpose, man. You're hitting them in a different way.
Yes, man.
You know,
I'm just something came to my mind. I knew that this podcast was bigger than what I ever wanted it to be or ever. So when I get comments like someone said, I now know through your podcast that there's space for someone like me in the church. Floored me.
Definitely.
Got me so emotional. Like similar I get every week. And it's those moments, you feel like giving up sometimes. And that message comes in and reminds you of purpose.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I really relate with that a lot. Funny enough, I've got a similar story with a Cindy, gospel singer, Cindy Ndombela.
Yes.
There's a time
she recently
where-
got married. Hey?
yes.
I think I bumped into a TikTok video.
There was a time where fake news was started about her. Facebook primarily. And I didn't connect the two, but it was during that time I managed to get her for an interview. And we spoke, and we didn't even dwell on the stuff that was being said, because I don't know what happened. I just didn't connect with Cindy's going through a tough time publicly, and it's become one of our biggest episodes. But it's what the episode did for her brand as well. It sanitized her brand again. People started to understand the human and the person behind that, and it restored. I had decided never again to listen to Cindy's music.
Sure.
Until this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm in no way saying that I did something so great to change her life or anything, but there was a small contribution during that time.
Definitely.
And even still today, it's that episode is just flying.
Because things live on forever. On the
absolutely.
Internet.
And then it connected me with the purpose of the platform to facilitate conversation and healing.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy there.
Yeah. Of course, at the end of the day, this has to become a business venture.
Oh yeah.
And you have to think like a businessman. But I don't think God will ever stop rewarding purpose-driven conversations.
Oh yeah.
God will never stop rewarding anyone who's connected to their purpose.
Yeah.
Because when you are connected to your purpose, you are serving.
Yes. That's right. Serving humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Through your gift. Yeah.
Through your gift.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah.
You are serving. Other creators, you have the Penuel Show, which is highly political in the types of conversation. It's opening people's minds up to the realities of this world in a political sense, in an economic sense. Penuel is a brother of mine, and we speak a lot. And for a person who's watching this podcast who's a staunch Christian, they will disagree with Penuel's religious views, but he is serving.
He is serving humanity.
He's serving humanity. Before him, there wasn't somebody as robust about getting into those nitty-gritties about what's happening in our government and raw, right? And that is important. And go to his comment section again. You will see people saying, I was not going to vote if it wasn't for me watching this episode.
It's beautiful stuff.
Do you know what I mean? Things like
crazy,
that.
Bro.
Those are practical things that change lives. Not the airy-fairy that some people want to latch on. Yes, I'm happy for you. You go to Hamsal on Tuesday. You go to prayer on Wednesday. You go to youth on Friday. You go to choir practice on Saturday and church on Friday, on Sunday. Sure. Dare I say you are running away from the realities of your life because you are filling up your time with church activities. Not God, church activities. That's what you're filling up your schedule with. And you're running away from the true raw issues that are happening in your life.
I always say that we are saved or born again more for the world than the church. And people have a problem with that. But we are not saved or Christians to be churchgoers. God wants us out there.
Do you know why people have a problem with that? It's the exclusivity. We love being exclusive. We love being better than others. Yes, we love having this thing that sets us apart. Not just Christian, it's a human thing. Classism is a human thing. And church has an extension of classism in it, where we classed higher in society because we are perceived to have moral high standing. We are perceived to have a certain respect. Oh, men of God. Which is crazy to me because we are all men of God. But Konabazas are men of God. So that and the policing of people's lives, it's shocking. But
I get you. In serving, in fulfilling your purpose through the podcast and other things and other ways that you serve, what has been the hardest challenge for you? Let's just talk about your public platform, in building it, in running it. What has been the toughest challenge?
Not in my platform.
On your platform.
In my humanity.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
My toughest challenge. And I hope this inspires someone, because I love that we've spent so much time building up, because the build up has led to a person revering me, creating concentration, and loving me without knowing the personal, intimate details of my life, and understanding the human first.
Yes.
That's why I'll say this now. The toughest thing, one of the toughest things to be in Africa, as a black person, as an African, is to be queer.
Man.
As a born-again believer, is to be queer.
Yeah.
In the black church, in the workspace, in public settings, in family life, there is a consistent confidence that is beyond the average person that you must consistently carry yourself with, even on your bad days. Because people, when they run out of things to say, or when people are lazy to challenge you at an intellectual level, or at a level where it's about who you are and the things you've worked about, they will switch to gossiping about your sexuality and who your intimate partner is, as if it matters. You know, and conflate that with issues of life. Till this day in South Africa, I'm yet to hear a pastor go on camera or radio and say, I believe in the rights of the LGBTQ plus people. And many do, but they do it silently. Many do believe it.
But
in the rights. To the extent that many have been healed from being homophobic. They didn't know they were homophobic. They thought they were biblical. You call it biblical, I call it homophobia. Because, once again, Bible interpretation. I'm a born-again believer. I've said this a couple of times in this episode. And the level of connection with God and confidence in God and self-confidence that it takes to believe in your relationship with God when the entire clergy or the system is created to say that you are disqualified from a relationship with God.
When the entire Christian community says
the entire community says
but you know it deep down. It is true for me. But everybody says,
bro, as a born-again person, when you were younger, you are new to faith, you try and think there are ways to change this. You try and think it's just a feeling. You are made to believe it's a demon. Disgusting. If you're saying that to anyone as a human being, that they're demonized. Like, go heal yourself. You are made to believe all these horrible things about your existence and your identity. But no, you understand, if it's racism, why am I being discriminated on the basis of my skin color? Did you choose your skin color? No. Did you choose your genetic makeup? No. Did you choose the organs that you have, the sexual organs that you have? No. But the system of the world and black people especially, which is so against Africanism to discriminate against anyone, have adopted this mentality of discriminating against people, hating people, and even taking people's lives for people's sexual preference. I don't even like the word preference, sexual identity, because it's not a preference. Nobody wakes up and says, hey, I want to be discriminated by people every single day. It's an identity.
So that's where the core or the crux of the argument is at, right? Between lifestyle choice versus identity. This is how I was made. So that's where.
Let me explain.
That's where the argument is.
Lifestyle choice. Lifestyle choice, as a queer person in queer culture, I condemn being promiscuous. Colloquially sleeping around. I condemn having intercourse without protection. I condemn that many queer people were known for spreading diseases. I condemn all of that. But that exists in heterosexual relationships as well.
It does.
So it's lifestyle. That's the lifestyle choice that you should be condemning. People being immoral. Christianity can condemn immorality. Absolutely correctly, because God calls us to holiness, right? God has grace over our unholiness, but still calls us to be disciplined enough to keep seeking Him so that it brings holiness into our lives, right? So if that 100%, please condemn and show grace to people, forgive people so that they change in ways that are problematic in behavior that causes their lives to be destroyed. But to call a person's identity, I repeat, a lifestyle choice is absurd, because there's no prayer that will pray it away. Mind you, I can tell you for free, people in church boards, pastors,
absolutely,
people of different faiths, people of different denominations, because of the numbers that I have on social media, I could take out my phone and they're in my DM. And you can see this is not a I want to interview. No. It's a heart when you post a picture on your Instagram stories.
It's flirtatious.
It's the emojis. It's flirtatious.
Flirtatious. You know what's being wanted here.
You know what's being wanted, right?
This is the hypocrisy that we have.
So I don't see. I'm not. Once again, I'm not judging that behavior, but as a married man with kids, and it's probably 15 years ago, when you were still deep within the homophobia and the makes people crazy. You think you exist in this world alone, where you're condemning queer people. You thought, I've prayed queerness away. I'm done. God saved me from queerness.
I'm delivered.
At 24.
Sure.
You're 41 now. And your true identity is back. It never left. But because you've grown as a human and you've had this wife for 15 years, and there's still a missing piece in your life after having her for 15 years, after making 3 kids. Because now rights have alleviated the pressure on queer people. I won't lie, being queer now versus being queer 15 years ago is a completely different landscape.
Also, culture has moved.
And culture has moved because now a Lungelo can exist like this and speak about queerness, and I can walk out here, I live in a nice suburb, my life is not in danger.
Sure.
And you as a pastor in the same situation, your life won't be in danger, but now you're stuck in the church. But now there's a video of you on YouTube 10 years ago saying people who are gay must go to hell. What a cognitive dissonance you must live in.
How do you raise that? How do you fix that internally?
How do you fix that internally?
So there's a word I want to explore that you used when you said you've not heard pastors stand up for the rights of the queer community. But before I get into that, so personally as Lungelo, you have zero contradictions inside of you about being born again and being queer.
I got over them. I had them. I had them. It's been years I've been over them. Thank you. I don't know if you know him, Pastor Thomas Khadebe. I told that man about my queerness in 2018. I was actually, what is it called? I was Thomas Khadebe's armor bearer for 7 years. Good. When I was serving in the church back in Umlazi. I told him about my queerness in 2018. I've never felt so affirmed about who I am since that moment. Because for him it was a non-factor. It was a non-factor. Complete non-factor. And when I look back, I'm like, people who've gone through things understand the nuances of life. I mean, he's lost a wife, his first wife, to death, and he got divorced again in 2019, I think. And even when when he was going through a divorce, I was one of the people he could talk to because of how much time we spent together, right? He couldn't talk to many people in the church. He couldn't talk to his fellow board members in the church. But I'm this young guy, this young queer guy, because we spent so much time together, we could laugh about it together. He could tell me the nitty-gritties of what's happening. This is what they're going through with the wife. And and we'd laugh about it, and we'd have a cup of tea and speak on it and speak about other things so that life goes on. And that would bring a sense of normality in his life.
Sure. For me, and excuse me for saying this, I've been on a journey of learning concerning what we're talking about now of the queer community. I'm learning, and we're going to do a series on this podcast very soon. Check it out, guys. We're going to talk about this gender theory, homosexuality, and all of that. I'm on a journey of learning because the one thing I know for sure is that in relation to all of us in the church and including queer people, the fundamental standard that God wants us to use in relating with each other is that of love.
Fundamental.
It is hard for me to mistreat you, to condemn you for being queer if I love you.
It is also hard for you to mistreat and condemn someone if you, as Ndumiso, who's married with 3 beautiful kids, according to you and how you've interpreted the Bible, is that a man needs to have a wife, right?
Sure.
So you got married. So in your opinion, you're having legal intercourse.
Yeah.
You're having kids, reproduction, that's good.
Sure.
What about the Facebook message, flirtatious message you sent to a woman that no one knows about?
Exactly.
Within your marriage?
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's say the church has agreed that
Yeah.
your salary is 15,000 or 20,000 rand a month, and that's how much you get paid for your needs and your service to the church.
Yeah.
And you start getting into a habit of, my child's school fees is getting expensive, so I'll take 3,000 rand more. You're patching. And dare I say rightfully so, because it is your church, it's God's church, but it's your church, your and your family's church, and you are taking care of the basic needs of your family.
Right.
Okay, the queer person whom you put their queerness at the standard of sin, and you taking 3,000 rand more, 300 rand more even,
Sure. Yeah.
from the offerings. Why are you not going to hell too?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a culture of legalism.
Yes.
Yeah. It's called legalism. It's religion. It's legalism, where we think that there are sins that are bigger than others.
Yeah.
Right. And if someone is going to hell for being gay, then the person who gossips, we must understand that they are also going to hell.
In a church of 2,000 people, then 1,999 are going to hell because everyone gossips.
It's
1,999. Mfundisi himself gossips about church members.
Church members, right? So realizing that, what you've just said, what is helping me in my relationship with God, and through the things I'm going through personally, with all the messes I'm going through and stuff, how do I still manage to stand and call myself a child of God? Is that I have accepted the grace of God.
Okay.
That doesn't mean ukuthi I will recklessly live and just say whatever. But I understand the grace of God. When He called me to be a pastor, when He called me to be a podcaster, when He called me to be a father, all of this, it was on the basis of grace. He knew all my mess ups that I would do even in the future, but He still called me because of that ingredient called grace.
Yeah.
Now, love and grace is what I'm commanded to use to deal with all my brothers and sisters in the church and even outside. Love and grace. So understanding God's love and grace makes it very impossible for me to be judgmental to anybody.
I don't have a bone of judgment in me.
Yeah.
you can't have a bone of judgment in you when you have grace. You can have criticisms, but judgment,
no.
That's insane.
Yeah, because I realize that no matter how dirty a sin is, it could easily be me.
Yes.
Oh, fast. It could easily be me. There are things that I think
life comes at you fast.
There are things I've done, things I've been through. They're like, I never thought.
Yeah.
I never
Life
thought.
will come at you really fast.
It's So it's a real issue that needs us to really be honest about.
Also,
even in the church,
because especially the big black churches.
Yeah.
I think every mfundisi I know has a secret love child outside of the marriage.
On top of that, there are many closeted queer people in the church.
Yes.
From the pulpit going down.
Yes.
Closeted. Because if I can come out, I'm losing everything. Church board members, singers in the church, all of that, they know if I come out, I'm going to lose. But it's that hypocrisy that I'm talking about. Even if it's not about being queer yourself, but you've got issues. Can you at least just use the same love and grace that God is handling you with for someone else?
Have you reconciled being divorced and being a pastor?
I have. based on the same thing that I just explained, the grace of God.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because funny enough, legalism, as you say,
Yeah.
because pastors, Bible note, I can't lose all of this. We'll divorce and remarry, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But where's that in the Bible?
Yeah.
That you can remarry after divorce? Aren't you guys always saying, as Obafundi Sogoti, the only time God used the word hate is when he was referring to divorce?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the only time.
Yeah.
Not even in queerness.
It's not even in queerness.
But 67% of South Africans get divorced in the first 5 years of marriage.
Yeah. You know what it is, man? We just don't know. And I'm speaking from the straight community here in the church. We don't know how to respond to this. We see what's said in the Bible. We see what we are taught. But there's also the human element. You know, you are one of the most solid people I know. And it would be very foolish of me to limit you to your sexuality.
Yeah.
No matter how I feel about it. I'm missing out on such a great person.
Yeah. Which a lot of people miss out on.
If I decide to do that. But also what I've realized is this legalism that this self-righteousness, legalism that we carry in the church, that we preach through in the church, comes back to bite us later in life.
Always.
And then we
always.
die internally. I'm going through stuff, but I can't tell anybody because I've always just preached perfection.
You know, even when it comes to, as you're saying, that this topic, the heterosexual people are confused, especially the leaders of the church. There are churches where the topic has never been raised. And I prefer those people.
You like those churches?
Because you are admitting to the fact that, I've been seeking God for clarity, but I'm not getting it. So I can't preach on something I don't have clarity on. Rather than default to the trend of speaking against it.
Sure. Because, you're just going to go to what everyone else is doing.
You go to what everyone else is doing because deep down we're now conflicted. And you know that conflict comes from either your understanding of the Bible or secularism. So you admitting that you're conflicted.
Exactly.
Right?
And that level of honesty is what's missing in this conversation.
And then all of a sudden it might not happen to you because statistically people are queer in life.
Okay.
It happens to your son.
Yeah.
Your 14-year-old, you find messages on their phone with another boy and he's a boy. What do you do?
Yeah.
Because you've been playing ignorance for the past 30 years instead of educating yourself. You've been playing ignorant. Some people always say, for a homophobic person, I wish them a queer child. No, I don't. No child deserves a homophobic parent.
True.
No child deserves a homophobic parent. But statistically, it might happen.
It might happen. Yeah.
The statistics are so high that it might happen.
Yeah.
And if your child knows you as speaking up against it, especially on the pulpit, your 17-year-old girl, she's not likely to commit suicide.
Because she'll never come out to you, first of all, as a parent. Will never come to you and say,
she'll
Dad,
never come to you.
Yeah.
She'll never come to you.
What must happen to that child?
What must happen to that child?
Yeah. It's insane. And so when God was clarifying for me my ministry, because I always saw my ministry on the pulpit before, ministry on the pulpit, preaching, pastor, and of course, that is me. That's who I am. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not doing that right now since my divorce, but and one of the things is that because most divorces, you've got leprosy. You know,
that is absurd.
No one wants to touch you. No one wants to relate with you.
That is absurd.
I lost 80% of speaking engagements. I was speaking
left, right, and center.
Now, because of the divorce and because of this podcast, those two things are responsible for losing gigs. But anyway, so if Christianity is a circle and secularism, which is is a circle, and the circles were to combine, right? Where they intersect, and God showed me this vision, this picture, where they intersect, he said, I'm calling you for this area.
Sure.
Right there where there's a conflict or a contradiction or a misunderstanding or an area of lack of
pull.
There, where the two merge, where the two intersect, that's what I'm calling you for. And so, hence the boldness that we go for the hard issues that are in the church, because I'm called for that. And so this is certainly one of those issues, and hence I have to be always in a mode of learning. I have to be a student, otherwise I'm not going to be effective.
It's a sad life to be ignorant, man. In
Yeah,
life, to be ignorant and to think your way is the highway.
Yeah.
To think, I made an example of somebody who goes to church 5 times a week. It honestly, that could be your calling.
Yeah, man.
And I'm not disputing that, but majority of people who are doing that, they shouldn't be doing it.
No, they shouldn't.
They're wasting time, actually.
Yeah.
They're wasting productivity time.
Yeah.
Their kids need them.
Yeah.
Your child needs you to do homework with them.
Yeah, boy.
You not being at home from 6 to 9 on weekdays because you're at church. You're going to grow up with a child that has abandonment issues.
Of course.
You know, so it's so important for people in the. I even hate the word Christian because it is so systematically religion.
Yeah.
But for people who are in Christ,
I have a problem with that word as well, that label.
In Christ.
Yeah.
But for people who are in Christ, please.
Yeah.
God gives us Christ in the form of the Holy Spirit on earth so that we can think.
Yeah. Let's think.
Have
you found acceptance? Have you found a group of people? Have you found churches that have embraced Lungelo for who he is and are not doing that, are not on the other spectrum? There's Kulmangai.
I'm a young man.
Sure.
I come in more than one car to a church. I'm well spoken. I dress well.
Yeah.
That ranks higher than my sexuality. Have I answered your question?
Yeah. Next question. So that speaks. Yeah. But I'm glad that.
And I have the privilege that I'm not one of those people who were designed to express themselves in an effeminate manner. So I fit in beautifully.
I see. Yeah.
So that topic doesn't have to ever be spoken about.
Yes. What does masculinity mean to you as a queer man? Because immediately for some people, I've learned in our ignorance, immediately when someone says, I am gay, I'm a man, I'm gay, we immediately cancel their masculinity. Or we say, obviously, then this person has to be feminine.
Everything you know about yourself as a heterosexual man, all the difficulties you go through in terms of provision, in terms of protection, in terms of caring.
Sure.
The only difference between you and I is that my intimate partner is a man as well. That's all.
But all of these other things,
exactly the same.
They're there.
Exactly the same.
Good. That was also something of contention internally a while ago?
No.
That's
why I'm saying in both a Christian and a secular world, I'm like the white people of queer people. Because I've got the privilege that I was designed masculine presenting.
Sure.
There are people where their design is effeminate. And guys, please, everybody knows a child in their neighborhood who's 4 but they're feminine and they're a boy child, or a girl child who's a tomboy. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
So please tell me that is not designed. But anyway, that is not something people are birthed with.
Yeah.
So I just have those privileges.
I get you.
That by design, like a person who's born as a white man, by design they have privileges.
Sure.
I'm born as a queer man, but I'm masculine. So just by design, I have those privileges.
Sure. Another hostile community is the very queer community. Does this privilege translate there as well? Because
yes, when you are masculine in the queer community,
you're more accepted.
Beyond accepted, you are desirable.
I see.
You are desirable because you fit into the desirability politics of the world.
I see.
And the desirability politics of the world are masculine, feminine, man, woman.
Right.
So I'm fitting in the desirability politics where even if I get a partner, even if it's Yazi, I'm desirable to both an effeminate queer man and a masculine queer man, because the effeminate queer man, their queerness is affirmed by a person who's desirable to society, loves me. The masculine queer man, this is lovely. Whenever we're together, we won't have any issues. People would think we're friends, or we're just hanging out. We're sitting at a restaurant. Nobody would ever think we're on a date. We're just guys chilling.
What is causing this toxicity within the queer community towards one another?
The toxicity towards one another are those desirability politics, which stem from the rest of the world. But also, we think we're fighting a common cause, but we keep on missing each other. Because within the queer community, for example, people who are highly effeminate or transgender, they are fighting a different cause to a Lungelo.
Right.
And a Lungelo can be perceived as not fighting because he has all the privileges of masculinity.
Of course.
So the person who's effeminate is annoyed by me. Because you're on a daily basis, because I'm in heels and I do my hair like this. People look at me funny in the shop. People say things to me. Like I've never experienced a slur.
Really? Yeah.
Because I'm masculine presenting, as I'm saying, and I have that economic privilege. So when you have economic privilege, you go into spaces, and you know, when you go into Sandton City or Hyde Park, no one cares whether your hair is blue, black, green, pink, yellow, whether you're dressed in a dress. No one, because we all understand that to be able to shop in Hyde Park, yes, and we're in a certain class. End.
But it's a different story for that guy in the township. That girl who's lesbian, that's a different story now to what they're facing. But anyway, moving on from that, concerning your life and the work that you're doing, what would you say you're building right now? Where's the vision going? What do you want to effect in the world? Or is 29 too young to ask?
It's not too young, but there's definitely a clearer picture. I was thinking this morning after my shower, a random thought that has been pressing my mind a lot, because I have opinions about marriage. And the older I grow, the more I understand that marriage is about building families and wealth. Very conjoined. So I was just reviewing people I've been in relationships with, my current partner, looking at the prospects of building. Because for me, I'm very adamant. I understand the importance of life of building family.
Yes.
And I understand the importance of having a romantic partner whom you can fully trust and believe in. And so, one, I'm in that stage in my life where commitment matters to me a lot. In a romantic space. I'm in a committed relationship where my career matters a lot. I'm in a good space in my career, but I'm turning 30 in a few months. So there needs to be even more elevation. I need to hold myself at a greater level of accountability.
Right.
Because as a 30-year-old, there are mistakes you've made, man. There's no time to be repeating them. You need to stabilize things. You need to be a dependable person to people who are younger than you.
Of course,
You need to be there for people. You need to be better in friendships. The brand Lungelo KM started about just over 2 years ago. And where it is right now is a completely different space to where it was in a year and a half ago. Right now, it has been completely cleaned up. Going in line with who I am as well in my life, in my personal life. As I'm saying, I've transitioned into maturity, into privacy, to being quiet, to minding my business, and just feeding the vision. And the vision is, once again, as a broadcaster, to create conversations that change people's lives. But I can't tell you how that will be in when I'm 40 years old. Right now, it's presented as a podcast. And I think in South Africa, we still have another 10 years of podcasting. Because we were about 9-8 years behind to the rest of the world. So I think I've still got a 10-year run in podcasting. As long as I don't change who I am, which I believe right now I'm in a place where I'm very content with who I am. God continue granting me with good health. I continue taking care of my body, because that's a fundamental. My health is important to executing everything else that I execute. I will then continue just nurturing the vision and seeing how far it can go. I don't think Trevor Noah said, my vision is the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. The murky vision was being a brilliant comedian that goes all over the world.
Yes.
But I don't think he specifically said the Daily Show.
Yeah.
I don't. That's God who creates those doors.
Yeah, those
you can't
opportunities,
specifically say my vision is that thing because even the journey to different visions is not the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be a podcaster.
You know,
I just landed on this thing, and now it's such a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
I get
you like me, ne? You think podcast every single hour. You think about your like
content all the time.
Content.
Yes.
Like yes, if you're walking in the shop, you think, that's content. You have ideas in the shower.
It's huge.
It that's when you know you're in your purpose. Because not many people have things that they can't stop thinking about.
Others
and make them feel good.
Yeah, yes, that's the thing. Have fun doing it. Man, your work is inspirational.
Oh, thanks, bro. Jeez, I feel like I'm doing, but there's a lot to go.
And I agree and I appreciate that. The fact that you are working at it and you are ticking off wins, ticking off growth milestones.
Yeah.
And at the age that you are at, you've got the mindset that you have. It's truly inspirational. It's great. And well done for that, man.
Thank you, man. I'm privileged. Once again, we spoke about systems. I'm privileged to be in South Africa. I'm privileged to have being presenting as masculine, because I'm sure even in boardrooms of things that I'm yet to do that you're yet to discover about me. There's something I recently shot with a very important platform, and I could enter that space because I'm masculine presenting. So those are privileges. I'm grateful to be born in South Africa. I'm grateful to be a man. I'm grateful to be in Joburg now so that I can penetrate the rest of the spaces and then move on. It seems like the world is exporting people, black authentic Africans, into the rest of the world so that they become international. I can't wait to see what God has in store for me. All I'm doing is staying obedient.
You are one of the men to watch. Definitely.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And thank you for being who you are and what you're doing and the spirit behind it. There's a sense of purity and genuineness behind how you carry yourself and the way you do things.
I don't know when this will come out. It might come out in Feb, but if it comes out in Feb or earlier than that, in Feb, it'll make sense when I say, what's the platform that I'll be on? And then you'll be shocked to go to, not him on this.
You heard it first on the Unchristian Network. You remember where you heard it first. Ladies and gentlemen, there was Lungelo KM.
Yes.
We will leave the same name because of technicalities of brackets and abbreviations.
Next thing, people start searching you on LinkedIn.
Hey, I want you to please, guys, go on his platform on YouTube, Engineer Your Life, and on all podcasting platforms, Engineer Your Life with Lungelo KM, and on social media as well. You can get him. He's an amazing thinker, an amazing conversationalist. I'm learning a lot from him, and I know that there's a lot of wealth that you can get from his show and the guests that he brings on. But it's been an amazing time, and I know you got something. So thank you so much once again, bro.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this. Join us again. Subscribe, please. If you have not, subscribe. A big
subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you a cent.
Just click.
Do you know that people that don't know that it's free, they think you have to pay?
Yes,
so it's free. Please subscribe. And take it further. Join as a member if you have the funds.
Absolutely. I found out that people think that this requires money.
Yes.
And my dad said, so how much is it to subscribe? My dad said that. I was like, okay.
There's an education
element as well. All right, guys. Check us next Tuesday on Intimate Moments with. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you.